Okay. And how do you make sure your code is testable? Because a lot of folks use things like dependency injection for making sure they can mock things out very easily. Is that what you also rely on, or do you have other techniques you fall back on?
There's definitely some dependency injection. I prefer calling it parameterization because dependency injection sounds terrifying.
Really
Um,
big.
yeah, it sounds like really like like giant needle coming at me from wherever. No, that sounds terrifying. It also sounds a lot harder than it actually is. Like the main thing that dependency injection involves is saying, okay, instead of using this thing here, I want you to use this fake one. And one way that you could do this, particularly in Swift, is in the initializer or something, you just add a parameter where you say, okay, give me something that conforms to this protocol.
Correct.
And you can give it a default value in Swift so that it uses the real thing 99% of the time. But then when you test it, you can hand it a fake thing. And that, like, I feel like calling it parameterization is just, it makes it seem a lot more accessible because it really just it puts a note on like, this is what you're doing. You're just turning this, instead of having it be a property, you're having it be a parameter. And you can use it to set things up either for production or for testing. And at that point, then it makes testing stuff a lot easier. It's definitely, I think another thing that I have found to be helpful is just sort of, I don't want to sort of give any kind of guideline in terms of like how long should a method be. I know that there's some stuff in SwiftLint where it like yells at you if you have more than like 50 lines of code in one method or something like that. But I think the thing that I found is just sort of like, look at how many different things is this particular method doing, and sort of how many of them are like conceptually different versus how many of them are sort of conceptually the same thing. So like, for example, there's something where I am getting the SHA-256 hash of a file. Like there's a bunch of it where it's just like, okay, like load file, do this, do that. But, ultimately the unit of what I'm doing is, here is a file, give me the SHA-256 hash. Most of the stuff that can fail in that is like really complicated C stuff that's really kind of a pain in the butt. And ultimately, if I broke that out into smaller pieces, it would just make the calls much more complicated. But it's something where you sort of have to, and sometimes, honestly, like some of getting to where do you break this out versus where do you leave it as one piece, some of that is just practice.